This next video is about how I cut bangs or fringe, whatever you want to call it, into alpaca, and how I would make it a shorter length. Honestly, I normally prefer to cut the hair before I root it up. I like to cut it before I make the plugs so that I've got a shorter length to work with in the beginning to keep that nice natural wispy end. But if I am to cut it afterwards, this is how I do it. I hope that's useful. Because this doesn't have a dome inside it, I'm going to have to hold the hair as I brush it, otherwise it will just come flying off of the stand. And I'm not worried about scratching the face or anything because this is just a stand. So I'm just brushing the hair and getting it to lay flat. So this hair here I have washed after rooting, so it is a little bit damp, but I did leave it to dry. I'm not working on wet hair because wet alpaca, when you brush it, it tends to stretch and just go a bit strange. Now, because I know I want bangs, I'm gonna comb it forward like Cousin It. So on our scalp, ours is a centre part because I'm going for chunky bangs. So what I want to start off by doing is this section here of plugs. I want to pull that forward and cut that and see if I think that's enough hair. And if not, I'll go a little bit further back and I'll cut that. And then this will leave all the rest of the hair in a nice chunky bangs hairstyle. Just be aware, start with a smaller section before you move into a bigger section. Now what I'll do is I'll take quite a small portion of hair to begin with. I'll give that another comb. I'm not sectioning out a huge chunk because it always ends up being slightly more hair than you thought it would be. I'm now cutting slightly further out, and I'm going to keep cutting and doing a little brush. So now that I've got the bulk of the hair I think I'm going to use organised, now is when I want to make sure that it's actually even on both sides. So I'm going to take that hair, and I think on this side I need just a tiny bit more. This is one of the reasons I think it's quite handy to have a stand, because if you didn't have a stand you would be using some quite pointy tools on your probably quite nice Blythe's face. So I've gone in and I've got the rest of the hair that I want to cut into the fringe or bangs, depending on wherever you're from. I'm just going to go for it and chop that off. And now that I've got my bangs, I've tied the rest of the hair back so I don't keep cutting in extra bits, and I am going to even it out. Okay, I realise it's quite hard to see on the camera where this fringe stops because of her coloured in black eyes. So I'm just gonna pop that on there for you. So what I'm aiming for is a fringe similar to Bow Wow trad. So I know that we want a very blunt fringe. Something I like to do is start off quite long and then keep trimming it. Quite hard to do this so that you guys can see because I'm always looking at it from a weird angle. I know the doll we're going for that goes just above the eyes. So what I'm doing now is I'm pulling up and dropping the hair, and any bits that have just been kind of moved around as I've been trimming, hopefully I can catch. What I'm not doing is pulling the hair down, because I don't want it to bounce up and be completely different. If you're wondering why my scissors are upside down, this is because it will cut a slight step into the hair, like when you cut a lot of pieces of paper and they're not lined up perfectly, they're kind of staggered. And I want any of that staggering to be under this first layer of hair so that it isn't a visibly chunky step. Okay, so that, I think, maybe just right. Now comes the fun part. So if you cut alpaca, what you'll end up with is a very sharp cut. It'll be just kind of bang, less hair. So I'm cutting mine roughly where I want the length, and then I will painstakingly thin it out with my comb. I should have used a different colour to show you, to be honest, but this is just the next commission slot I had. So now I've got it nearly the length I want it, but what I want to do is get those less chunky. So I'm now going to take the scalp off. I'm going to tie a band over most of the hair. Brush this hair out. And then I'm just going to take my thinning comb and I'm going to go over all of the ends over and over again until they start looking like natural ends and they don't have that kind of very, very blunt look about them. So we can already see kind of the difference here to there. So what we want to do is make all the rest of it look like that. So I'm going to continue doing that and then come back to you. So I carried on thinning it out. Now we can see the ends are a lot less blunt. There's more of a kind of natural alpaca feel about them. The fringe has dried completely and has risen a bit, which is perfect because we were going for a Bow Wow trad vibe, and Bow Wow trad is just above the eyes. So yeah, and just so you can see on top, she's still got her thatching. What we've done is we've just pulled the front bits forward. Yeah, super happy. I know my hands were everywhere, and I hope that wasn't too hard to follow. If you do have any questions, you can hit me up over on my Instagram at eleanor.jane.again. Yeah,